Welcome to the Currency of Knowledge, a County National Bank wealth management podcast, the podcast where we unravel the layers of prosperity, explore the diverse meanings of wealth, and delve into the stories of those who have built their own versions of abundance. I'm your co-host, Christopher Phillips.
And I'm Holleigh Baker. Join us on this insightful journey as we redefine wealth beyond the balance sheets and uncover the true riches that life has to offer. Let's explore the essence of wealth in all its forms. All right, so we're back for another series in our educational podcast of Currency of Knowledge. And today we're going to sit down with Kathryn Mohr, who is a local attorney, and also they have a greenhouse, which is very interesting and exciting when you think of the agricultural piece of it and the law piece of it.
Yeah, I think the greenhouse is 5 acres covered. It's really a fantastic location in Britain that you can go through. And after we recorded the podcast, we were just talking about kind of her client service approach out there, and it's true to her nature. It comes natural, but Kathryn has this vast amount of experience, serves on a number of nonprofit boards in our community, serves on our community bank board, advisory board here in Lenawee County. So we're really pleased to be able to partner with her expertise and really soak in the knowledge that she has. Absolutely. And allow our clients to benefit from the resources that she can provide them in their estate plan.
Yeah, so it's Mohr Buds Law is the law firm, and then of course it's Mark Prelup Greenhouse and More. So very excited to get to speak with Kathryn, and glad to be back at the table with you.
It's always fun.
Welcome to the Currency of Knowledge. We have Kathryn Mohr with us today. Kathryn is a local attorney, and she's also on our advisory board. So thank you so much, Kathryn, for coming.
Thank you for asking me.
Sitting down with us today, we, I believe, are going to talk about business succession and estate planning and how we merge the two together. So exciting topic and very needed and necessary.
And it's a topic that everyone should be looking at regardless of where you're at in your business cycle. Because at some point it's going to happen, whether it's an immediate situation or planned out.
Yeah.
So I know Kathryn does this all day, every day.
All day, every day.
And so really excited to get her expertise and to help our clients understand what they need to be thinking about as they look forward to that next step.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think what happens is they're so great in their business and they're running it and it's successful. And then we just kind of get to the end and they want to step out. And so when they hopefully are coming to you ahead of time or you're having those conversations with them, but when you're starting the conversation, how is that happening with respect to ownership and control and really passing the business on?
So I really begin every conversation with getting to know the client, making them feel comfortable, but also telling them they have to be honest with me with this conversation. And I really think about one of my favorite quotes from Garrison Keillor, the Lake Wobegon series author, where he said, "All women are strong, all men are good looking, and all children are above average." And this is actually been known as the Lake Wobegon effect, which is we tend to exaggerate or overestimate our abilities, our achievements, and our performances. And we especially do that with our children. Mm. And so I find when I initially ask, how do your children get along? The initial answer is great, good, no problem. I usually ask that about 3 times over the course of the meeting. And finally, one of the spouses usually break and say, well, my son doesn't like her husband and they really haven't spoken for the last 3 Christmases and we have to have Christmases together. But I'm sure they can run the business together when we're gone. And that's not being honest. And that's where I start to say, let's be honest. Let's talk about their performance. And I also drill down to say, have you let the child run the business? Have you stepped away at all? Have you gone to Florida for 2 weeks? And do they know the front room as well as the back room?
Yes.
Because if they haven't done the back room with the finances, they're not prepared to take over the business. So it's not a one size fits all, and it can be multiple conversations of how we handle this. Sometimes the parents like to bring the children in. I caution that for the first several meetings, I really don't want the child there because I want the parent to be honest. So that's kind of the beginning of the conversation, and sometimes I send them back to say, until you know the child is ready to understand the finances or really be committed for the business, we're really not ready to talk about giving the business to them or selling the business to them. And so let's do something just in case one of you passes away. Does mom and dad both know how to run the business, or will one of them be at a total loss if something happens to one of them? So that's kind of the beginning. Let's kind of do a Band-Aid if we're not ready,
Sure.
but let's get something in place, estate planning wise.
So I think that's, it's really interesting to me because, we work in this area as well, and the same conversations, right? We it's over time that you learn to kind of the family secrets that are hidden away. You mentioned that you identify that you may not be ready for this. What percent, when people walk through your door, do you think are really ready to do the hard work that this takes to get complete?
Probably 25%, to be honest,
Yeah.
that they're just not ready. The child isn't ready, or they have a child there that isn't performing. So again, it takes time, and sometimes the answer is, and this is not always pleasant. It's painful because of the honesty. Sometimes we result in saying, I think we have to sell this business because my spouse can't run it alone. I've built this my whole life, and I don't want to see the value go down. And so maybe the answer is we start to sell it. And that's sometimes the succession plan.
Yeah.
But what I try to do is make sure the child is there. I have the father step away, and then it becomes, as we drill down, all right, is it better to transition it, or because of tax implications, whether it be income, capital gains, is it better to inherit it? So do we, in the estate plan, make certain that the child who's running the business knows you're going to get this business? Not only the business, but the real estate where the business is located.
Yes.
So that can be a disconnect, because if the other siblings own the real estate and one sibling owns the business, that's a real disconnect. The other issue I have to look at is debt. What kind of debt does mom and dad have? What kind of money do they need to be comfortable to take out of the business? And I think the child needs to also understand, if I'm getting the business someday, but I have to make sure my other siblings are getting X amount of dollars, or I need to pay them something, then that child also needs to make certain that their own personal debt isn't at a level that they're not going to be able to get a loan or have a line of credit. And I've seen that happen also.
Which can really put a monkey wrench in the whole plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you raised an interesting point, because we were kind of talking almost as if there's one child involved, but usually there's more than one. And at least in my experience, all of them are not going to be part of the business. So when we have that scenario of the business is the main value in their estate, are there conversations, or how do you help them, and as we help them, kind of offset what that's going to look like, because you do have other siblings?
So mom and dad have to make a determination that equal is really not fair when someone stayed at the business, helped grow the business. I once did a seminar, and somebody raised their hand and said, is there a software program that shows if a child's worked in a business 25 years, what the sweat equity value is. And I said, not that I'm aware of, but clearly, if a child's been in the business, they've raised the bar of the business and they keep growing it. Mom and dad passed, the value was here. Now it's here because of the good works of the child. That child becomes very bitter to say, now I have to divide it against my siblings who've lived in California and haven't been back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's some real bitterness on their part. So what if the business is the main asset? So we look at other assets. Is there retirement accounts that the other children can be the beneficiaries of that? That has income tax consequences. Is there life insurance? Should there be life insurance? I love second to die life insurance because it can benefit the children. Should there be?
Can we just real quick, just for our listeners?
Yeah.
Second to die. Can you talk just real quick about
Yeah,
what that
the
is?
thing I like about second to die life insurance is it's based on 2 life expectancies. So the premiums seem to be lower.
Mm-hmm.
So mom or dad do not benefit, but the beneficiaries do. And so sometimes I burden that with the child who's taking over the business. Or sometimes if there really isn't the ability to have assets, I will put in the trust that the child receiving the business needs to either pay the siblings or if not, give promissory notes to the siblings at death, which are secured by the assets of the business.
Right. Okay. And I love, the flexibility that you have. It's really, the world is open as far as possibilities with this. And you kind of work along with your client to define the best approach, given the unique circumstances of that family and that business. And we've seen you do that many times, and so you do that really well.
Yeah, you have to know the family, and you have to know the dynamics. And again, honesty.
Because the more that you know about the family, the better you can plan, and the better the family themselves also are identifying the potential hurdles that the family collectively will have to jump over to get this across the finish line, because it's a team sport here.
Yeah, and I think it's especially difficult for parents to admit, again, their children do not get along.
Right.
And I'm not sure why parents think that some wonderful event will occur at the casket and children who haven't spoken will suddenly love each other and want to divide everything equally.
During one of the most stressful times of their lives.
It does not happen that way.
Right.
And so if they're not getting along now, they won't get along. Holleigh, you were involved in this many years ago. I had a lady who had great wealth, but was not a sophisticated type. And she said, my 4 daughters will not get along when I die. And if I pick one, the others will be mad. And so I can't have one, and I certainly can't have all because they'll never make a decision. And so could a bank help in this situation? And I said, well, you've described a perfect event of a corporate or a bank trustee that is a neutral third party that has the software to do accountings and that can settle this. And it's one of my best stories because she was an honest person who knew. Now you handle that, and the 4 daughters would come to you and say, why, we want this settled. Where's our money? When's the farm going to sell? And there was a lot of money involved. And in the end, they all got along and they all were like, well, we don't know why the bank had to be involved. Any one of us could do this. But after the mother died, her goal was achieved, that they were still sisters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I thought that's one of the best stories that I could tell, that sometimes you have to be honest. Is there a fee for that service? Yes.
But there's a fee on the other side.
Exactly.
Too. It may not be dollars, but it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
And what we say when we're serving as successor trustees is that we don't necessarily grow family relationships, but our job is to preserve where we found them.
Yeah.
And we can do that pretty well. at this point, walking through it.
There's this, I always say when I'm sitting down talking to somebody about why a corporate trustee, and I say, because collectively then they can together say that bad bank, even though we're doing our job. And I have no expectation of being invited to Thanksgiving dinner, but Thanksgiving dinner still happens with the family.
Yes, for sure.
Because they're still together.
Yeah, I've also seen, it's not that individuals can't be trustees, and some do a good job, but it is an overwhelming task. It's reporting financially. And I have had some instances of highly educated, very honest people who have made really egregious mistake. So I'm going through a checkbook ledger. Grandpa's been gone for some time, and I see a $20,000 check to Michigan State. And I'm like,
they're not a beneficiary.
Yeah. So to the trustee, why did you write a check for $20,000 to Michigan State? And she said, because my dad always paid my son's tuition. And I'm like, but dad is gone, and that is not in the trust, and you don't have the right to do that. And this better be corrected before your sisters find out. So it's that's always surprises me, whether it's a misunderstanding or what, but it's a concern.
Yeah. I'd like to jump to the business valuations area, but how, when you start working, you talk about that, tell me the name again.
The Lake Wobegon effect.
Lake Wobegon. People often over exaggerate maybe their balance sheet too from time to time. And they may believe so much in their business that they overvalue it. So how often when you're doing this do you need a clear evaluation, and what's that process? How often does that need to happen?
So interestingly enough, I see that, but as you know, I have a very large farm practice because I grew up on a farm. I'm married to a farmer. We're part of a farm organization. Those folks underestimate their balance sheet. And usually I have to draw it out of their wealth. So I guess it depends, because most people, a business valuation is in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 to 20,000. And the problem that I usually have with clients is I'm not going to spend that type of money. So sometimes we can look at the balance sheet, we can look at the income, we can work with their accountant and say, okay, let's do a multiple of 3 or 4 times income and come up with an amount, because it is for a family member. The issue with that could be that I have to explain to them that may not be how the IRS values your business when you pass. That's going to be fair market value. I think for the most part, I can probably do that with family succession planning without those professional evaluations, because the parents usually have an idea. This is what I want from the business. This is the debt that has to be serviced. And this is what Dad and I need out of the business for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that should give our listeners some relief to know that the first thing you're not going to say to them is, hey, you need to spend $20,000 getting your business appraised for this purpose. You're going to be much more pragmatic in the approach to that, because I do think sometimes people are, I've had people say to me, I'm just real simple. I just have a $20 million business. I'm not complex. I don't need a big succession plan. And the reality is that it's a big business, right? It's a small business in terms of corporate America, but it's a big business. It's important value for the family. And we do need to spend some time and effort and energy thinking about this and designing this.
I think I had this dispute with a CPA the end of last December, and a child had been in the business, left the business, really needed to come back to the business to help parent in the business. And parent had absolutely promised, if you come back, you will have ownership. I will change my estate plan So there is a clear path for you to have ownership. So child's back, doing a great job. Parent is happy. Everybody's happy. Other sibling taken care of. And accountant said, no gifting unless you spend $20,000. Dad, great businessman, but not going to spend that kind of money. So I explained the risk. We filed a gift tax return, but it was more important at that point that the son acknowledged that parents were happy with what he was doing to make that gift. It wasn't the whole gift of the business. It was some percentage, but they wanted to say, I'm a part owner in this business.
And we'll be right back.
We can all think of a successful business, and we know that those businesses have a comprehensive plan. Let County National Bank Wealth Management help you put together a comprehensive plan for your life, whether that's leaving money to children or to a charity or traveling wherever you want. Come meet with us, and we can help you plan, prepare, and prosper throughout your life.
Well, welcome back. We are on the second half, and so we talked about business valuation, and Christopher made a comment where we've had clients or individuals will say it's not a complex business and it's a large business, and we don't need this and we don't need that. But are there certain documents that they definitely should have in place?
So certainly, because incapacity can happen within seconds sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I often find in a small business that one person is the sole shareholder, the sole president, and there are no other officers. And bankers don't like people in corporate accounts without prior authorization. And so something happens to the president / secretary / treasurer of the company, and no one has authority to get in that account. Or maybe it is a bookkeeper who has sole authority. Is that comforting with, a large balance in that account? So the basic corporate documents, who's on the board? Because the board can elect officers. Is there an officer? Is there someone to immediately step in and know what's going on? Is it a trusted employee that can run that business? So we look at first the corporate structure, and then the capacity structure, which might be a durable power of attorney, that someone has authority to sign on the person's behalf. A healthcare power of attorney, who can make healthcare decisions if you can't. And then the documents to, of course, avoided probate. We haven't even talked about the P word, right? So what is probate? As I say, if you die with something in your name alone, there is a system through our courts that decides who's in charge of that and who gets that asset. So it is a series of hoops to jump, paperwork, delay, and cost that can all be eliminated with usually either beneficiary designations or a trust, which avoids probate. The other great thing about a trust is it is private. And so no one gets to see the trust except the beneficiaries at the person's death. A will does not avoid probate, but does direct where the assets go. But that is a public document that is filed with the county court where you die. So those are some of the very basic documents that should be in place.
And then should there always be a buy-sell agreement, or can we handle that through perhaps the trust if we're transferring it to children?
I think, yes, sometimes I do buy-sell agreements, and that's if mom and dad really want to get out and start having some flow of income. Sometimes I do it through the trust if the complete succession plan won't happen until death. Sometimes that's because of the stepped up basis for capital gains to lower capital gains tax. I'm doing a buy sell right now that dad says, hey, I'm going to leave the business to the two of you when I'm gone. Don't worry about it. I haven't done that yet, but that's my plan. And yes, you do have two other siblings. And so I'm doing a buy-sell agreements among the siblings. And I said to the siblings, do you want to buy Dad out if he's incompetent? And they said, well, we should leave that door open. So I'm having Dad give them an option to buy him out at the value right now, because the children are actively growing the business and he's semi in the rocking chair. And they said, boy, we don't want to wait 10 years and pay more for this. So there's an option in place at a set value. So we've kind of frozen the business at this point, that they could pay, with the idea that in Dad's trust, he would forgive that buy, sell, or stream of income coming to him and Mom.
Yeah.
So everything is different. Everybody's different.
What I hear, the commonality of the approach is that you're building flexibility. So because we can't, as we sit here today, say what's going to happen to Pre-Lip and Mohr greenhouse. We don't know what the future holds for it, and so we know what the goal is, right, for the greenhouse. But you have to build flexibility so that plan can ebb and flow to meet the needs of something that's happening at that time.
I finished one plan for a family and they said, now we never have to redo this, right? We're done. And I said, yes, because life never changes.
Yeah.
And they looked at me and I said, of course you need to review it.
Yeah.
Life changes. We never know how it's going to change. So it needs to be reviewed.
Yeah. So what would be, if we have people listening that are wanting to get started on their business succession plan or even their estate plan, Kathryn, how can they reach out to you, or what would you say would be the next step for them if they're ready to have those real conversations with you to get going?
So I would tell anyone to find a trusted advisor attorney that they're comfortable with, that they can pour their heart out to, and that will listen to them and give them honest feedback. Years ago, I always keep a box of tissues on my conference table, and I would tell my partners, did you take my tissues? Because I need those tissues in the room. Because people often get very emotional when they're talking about this. Especially my crusty farmers. They're usually the ones that first cry when they start to talk about their land. I had another attorney visiting me that was not my partner. And I said, I always have that box of tissues on the table because my clients get emotional. And he said, I don't go there. I don't go there with clients. Don't go there. I don't want to go there. I didn't say anything, but I thought, then you're not getting to the heart.
Right.
You're not really understanding that.
Yes.
So I think find an attorney you're comfortable with, but also find an attorney who understands estate planning, the corporate structures, buy, sell, capital gains, income tax, second to die life insurance. It's like juggling balls in the air. Do you know that? If you're doing DUI and criminal and divorce, you're probably not doing this. This is what I do. I don't do the other. I don't go to court. I have a partner that does that. This is what I do. This is my focus.
Well, and I think, it's like going to, if you're having a heart issue, you don't go to a neurologist or to a general family practitioner. You go to a cardiologist. And you created a niche practice working on this, particularly in the farming community, because you have such intimate knowledge of it. You're living it every day.
Every day.
Which right now you guys are probably working, 20 hours a day.
Yes, we are. Without a doubt.
So we really appreciate you taking time to have this conversation with us. But it shows the relevancy and the importance of this topic, because whether you're farming, whether you're making a widget, you've put your whole life into this, your whole being.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes second generation, third generation of families doing it. And so you don't want to mess up at the final moment. And so I would just encourage everyone to have the conversation. And as Kathryn said, it's really a values conversation. When she sits down with clients to have those conversations, she wants to know the values of the family so that she can build the estate plan. No one goes to the cardiologist and says, hey, I have this really heart is working. See, I'm just a simple person. I don't need a lot of details about my heart. If you could just do it once over, and maybe we'll do a we'll and then call it good. You want the cardiologist to get embedded in what's going on in your body so that you can take, and the same is true for a estate planner.
So I am part of a 4th generation family farm that has changed and morphed again.
In ways that you never dreamed.
In ways I only dreamed. In ways I only dreamed would happen. And it has come forth. Our grandson, who was 6 last summer, said to his father, "Am I too young to be in charge of the farm?"
I love that.
So that's succession planning at a very early, but it's instilling it in our children and our grandchildren.
That's wonderful.
Well,
So, thank you so much, Kathryn.
You're welcome.
well, I think it's fantastic that you know, is he taking after his grandfather or his grandmother when he says he wants to be in charge?
I don't know. Probably both.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate the partnership that we have with you on the bank level as well as the personal level. We enjoy working with you, so thanks for being part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yay!
How's that?
Securities and insurance products are not FDIC insured, not being guaranteed, subject to investment risk, may lose value.